Hello, my name is Steven, and welcome to my YouTube tutorial. I want to teach you how to install the Abyss web server from Aprelium, and we're going to do this on Linux. It's available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and we want to do Linux. So this tutorial today will teach you how to install Linux. A later video will actually install the web server. And so we're going to put it on Linux, and I want to tell you why Linux. Let's look at the benefits. Well, first of all, Linux is free. You never have to pay for it. Everything that's built onto the operating system, the packages you can download, are free also. There's no activation. Have you ever dealt with that with Windows? What a pain. I hate activation. But you don't have to worry about that with Linux. Now, there are two flavors. You can install the command line environment. I'll show you that real quick. That's just a real simple, well, this right here. Looks like a command prompt in Windows. You can install it that way, or you can install a GUI, which is a graphical user interface, but we are going to do the command line interface. It's much better for servers. Because we're doing that, we benefit from greater system stability, and there are fewer things that can go wrong because you're not running all this extra stuff on top of the command line. Linux consumes very little system resources. Well, Windows, most of the bloat is because of the GUI. And in Linux, well, the GUI takes a lot of resources compared to the command line, so we want to run the command line. You also have excellent system interoperability. And this basically means you can install Linux on a hard drive. You can take that hard drive out of that computer, put it in a different computer, and boot up, and Linux just works. With Windows, oh man, it's a pain. Sometimes it works, sometimes you get a blue screen of death, and well, Linux doesn't suffer from that. With Linux also, most drivers are included. So you just pop that hard drive in, and the different system devices it finds, well, it just works. It's awesome. Now, Wi-Fi drivers, you're going to have to do a little bit of work to install, but you're running a server, so you shouldn't be running it over Wi-Fi anyways, and so we don't have to worry about that. You should just run it through the Ethernet connection. There are also very few viruses. That's a wonderful benefit. Linux was designed as a multi-user operating system for different people to come in and type in their username and password, and they can log in. And it was built with security in mind from the beginning because of that. Windows, on the other hand, was built mainly for the PC, the personal computer, and so they didn't even worry about different users. You remember Windows 3.1, you didn't have users. That was introduced in Windows 95, and Windows is playing catch-up with security. They've been doing that ever since. So there are very few viruses, and again, as I mentioned, it's built from the ground up with security in mind. And so that's a wonderful benefit of Linux. Alright, so that's what we're doing. We're going to install the distribution called Debian, and you can get it at www.debian.org. And there's a download right here when you load up the page. Download Debian 9.7 is the current version, and the 64-bit version. If you should want a 32-bit version, I don't know why you would, but you can get it here. And so if you were to do that, we load this up, and you get a bunch of links here. Download it over HTTP, get the stable release, and then you have the option here of CD or DVD. The CD contains just enough information to get Debian installed. You do have to have a network connectivity to get it installed properly. And you have a 64-bit processor, so you want the AMD 64, and that's the link I just showed you a moment ago in green. If you want 32-bit, you go the IA386 download. If you happen to have an ARM computer, you probably don't, but if you have an ARM processor, that's your download right there. The DVD, there are actually 3 files here for the AMD 64, and they can be very large, up to 4.4 gig, and these contain an awful lot more packages built right in. So you have DVD 1, that's what you'd use to install it, 2 and 3. But we're going to keep things simple. We're going to go back to the home page, download this right here, save it, and we'll get started. Alright, now we also need to get a program called Rufus, rufus.ie. And you see here we have our ISO download Debian 9.7. Rufus is going to allow us to make a bootable USB. It is much faster than installing off of a CD. So you can see I have Rufus 3.1. You want to grab 3.4 here, the latest version. This is a full download. It'll install the program, or you can stick with the portable version. It won't install anything. It'll just put the necessary files on your computer. If it were me, I would get the portable version and run it. But if you like having a desktop icon or see it in your start menu, then you want to get the full installation. Alright, so I have Rufus 3.1 again here. The easiest way to do this is to just drag your ISO file into Rufus. And you can see that it selected the proper ISO file. And all these options are prepared for us already. And I need to plug in my USB device with an SD card in it. And so give me just a moment to get that done. My device here, I have an SD card, 16 gigabytes. The file itself is only, well, just under 300 meg. So you can get away with a 1 gig a flash drive or SD card, whatever you're using. And so we've selected the right device. Make sure you don't get the wrong device because we're going to wipe out anything that's on it. So back up if you need to, and it's going to default to file system, cluster size, all that's good. Now the important thing is choose quick format. Otherwise you'll format the device and that just takes a long time. If you potentially have bad sectors on your SD card, could happen. Uncheck quick format, but you can probably get away with quick format. And we'll hit start, and it will give us the option of ISO mode recommended or DD image mode. ISO is just fine, that's what we want. And it just warns me I'm going to erase everything on the disk if I click OK. Well, that's what I want to do. OK. Springs into action. It should take just a quick minute here and it'll be done. Alright, and after that we'll be done with Rufus, and what you're going to do is you are going to take your flash drive or SD card and you're going to put that in the computer that you want to install Debian on. Now the important thing that you need to do is you need to boot off of the flash drive. And so in order to do that, you've got to go into your settings. As soon as you turn the computer on, you should see a button or something that says boot options. It might say BIOS or UEFI. You want to go into your settings so you can modify your boot settings to start up from the USB device. And if that's something you don't know how to do, Google's your friend. Get the model number of your computer or the motherboard, or if it's a laptop, you can get the model of the device, the model of your laptop. So type in the model of your laptop, followed by boot from USB, and you should get some information on how to do it for your particular computer. Alright, Rufus has finished. We're ready. We hit close. We can get rid of that. We can get rid of Debian here. Now I'm going to be running this in VirtualBox. Once you boot up your computer from USB, you should see what I'm seeing. So I'm going to boot up my VirtualBox here, and we'll get installing Linux. Alright, now you notice it just said select F12 for boot device. Now your computer will probably be a different key, and so you figured that out, and you've now booted off the USB, and this is what you're greeted with. Graphical install or install. We just want to do the regular install. We don't need the graphical user interface. We're not going to be installing the graphical interface, so we're just going to install it this way. And so it'll spring into action. And it gives us some options here. Language, English. Country, I'm in the United States. I want to use the American English key map. Just hit enter, enter, enter if you like those defaults. And it's just doing some basic stuff here. Now make sure your computer that you're installing it on has internet connectivity. You will need that. And it's just running through setting up the network. Alright, now we need to pick a host name for the system, and I'm just going to call this Debian-server. You can name it whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. Just a descriptive identifier so you know what you're dealing with. Debian server is fine. I don't have a domain name. Now this does not refer to anything to do with websites. You don't have to worry about it. If you want to learn more, Google it. Linux domain name. Alright, so now we're going to have a root account. It's automatically going to be created. And we need to pick a password. Pick something that's relatively secure. I recommend more than 10 characters. And don't just use a dictionary word. Put in some numbers, some symbols, and different things like that. And for me, I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is a horrible password to use for root, but this is just a demo. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you want to make sure that that's what you've entered, tab, spacebar, and now I can see my password. Continue. Now I need to also make another user, and if it's just pick your name or whatever you like, maybe a nickname or a name you like. This is going to be the secondary user that does not have root privileges. I'm just going to name it user. And this is the full name, so you could, capitalize the U if you like. And the username, these are all lowercase letters. We'll just call it user. Again, you can put your name, nickname, whatever you like. Password, I'm just going to do ASDF. Select your time zone. And now we can get into business here. Okay, partitioning method. The simplest option is this one. Use the entire disk. But we're not going to do that because we want to simplify taking backups of our server later. So we want to go manual. We're actually going to use the entire disk and set up LVM. But I want to do it manually. Okay, so this is my hard drive right here. It's a virtual box, so it's a virtual hard drive in my case, but you'll see the full size of your hard drive here. And we want to hit enter so that we can create a partition table on this device. Very good. Alright, so my free space, what do I want to do? Oh, I want to install LVM. There we go. Write changes to disks and configure LVM, which is Logical Volume Manager. Yes. Create volume group. We're just going to call this server. Why not? Devices for the new volume group. If you have multiple hard drives, you'll see multiple entries here. You can actually, if you have, say, 5 hard drives in your server computer, you can actually make them all look like one hard drive to Linux. Now, if one of those hard drives fails, you're in big trouble. So, anyways, simple option. I'm just going to pick one hard drive, and I only have one, and we will continue. And the tab button is what cycles through the options on this interface here. So we hit enter there, write the changes, configure LVM, yes. So now we see volume groups 1. Now we need to create a logical volume. This is the same thing as basically creating a partition. Select the appropriate volume group, which we've only made one, so yep. We will call this root partition. So the logical volume name is root. Logical volume size. Now this is important. You see I have about 10 gigabytes here. Leave at least 1 gigabyte free. It's not going to be used. We're going to use it for snapshots, which is important for backups. It's a 10 gigabyte, so I'm just going to allow 9 gigabytes for the... You know what? No, I need to make a swap also. Okay, so I'm going to do 8 gigabytes because I gave this VirtualBox computer 1 gigabyte of RAM. So if you probably have a bigger hard drive than 10 gigabytes, you need to subtract the amount of RAM you have, if it's 4 or 8 gig, and then also subtract a gigabyte or 2 or 3 for the snapshot. So what I've done, I have a 10 gigabyte drive. I'm making a swap partition of 1 gigabyte because that's how much RAM I have, and I'm saving 1 gig for snapshots. So that leaves me with 8 gigabytes for usable space for my partition that Linux is going to be installed on. Okay. Create another logical volume. Logical volume name is swap, and this is going to be 1 gigabyte. Finish. Okay, now I see what I just created. Here we have 8 gigabytes. I'm going to hit enter so I can set this 8 gigabyte up. I'm going to press enter again so I can change it. I'm going to put ext4 as my file system. Mount point is the root file system. Mount options, defaults is fine. Label, if you want to label it, that's fine, don't have to. And so typical usage is standard. So we have the settings the way we want it. And now we're going to just say done setting up the partition. Enter. Alright, so you see it changed. I can't give you a mouse cursor to show you, but you notice the slash there, that's the root partition, that's good. You see ext4, so that's what we want. We go down here, and this is our swap. You see right above the 998.2 megabytes, it says swap. And that was the name I created for the logical volume. Use as swap area. And just in case your RAM gets spent for whatever reason, this is virtual RAM more or less, and it's on the hard drive. Windows has a page file, or swap, and this is kind of the same idea. Done setting up the partition. Alright, so now it's set up as swap. Now we look good, and like I say, I left some space open. The root partition is 8 gig, and the swap is 1. That makes 9. We've got 10.7. I left some over on purpose because this is going to make backups wonderfully simple. You will learn to love the Logical Volume Manager once you learn it. Finish partitioning, write changes to disk. Write the changes to disk, yes. Alright, we're installing the base system. This will take just a few minutes. Okay, now we're installing the Logical Volume Manager. Okay, configure the package manager. It's asking us, scan another CD or DVD. If you happen to do the DVD and you have multiple, then you'd say yes, but if you're just doing the simple installation, no, we don't need to do it. Okay, now packages. Think of that as programs. You can get programs off the internet. It makes it very easy with Linux, with a package manager, and so you just pick your country and it'll set it up for you. We'll use ftp.us.debian.org. You just pick one that works good for you. It's near you. HTTP proxy, I don't have one, so I just hit enter. Now we're retrieving files, so again, like I said, you need to have network connectivity for using the net installation ISO. Alright, now we're going to install software. Retrieving files, now it's going to install some things. Configuring popularity contest. You can let Debian know what packages you download, what software you install in Windows speak. You can do it if you want. You can say no if you want. They'll just know what packages you install, and that's it. I selected no. Alright, this is important. Software selection. I'm going to hit spacebar to clear the Debian desktop environment. We don't want it. We're going with the GUI installation. You can still run the server if you do have a desktop environment or a GUI, but we don't want that. SSH and standard system utilities, and that will give us the best performance for a server. No desktop environment. If you want to install one, like I said, you can. GNOME, I think, is the default for Debian. So if you install those two at the top, you can have a graphical user interface. But like I said, servers run better without it, so we're going to do it without it. And you learn more that way. Okay, so we're downloading a few more things, and we're going to install that software. Now we're installing the bootloader. This is necessary so Linux can actually start on the computer. So install the grub bootloader to the master boot record. Yes. Device for bootloader installation. Well, pick the hard drive that you install Linux on. If perchance you have two hard drives and you're maybe dual booting or something like that, that'd get a little hairy, but we're installing on a server, so you should put grub, the bootloader, on the hard drive you installed Linux on. You wouldn't want to dual boot with the server anyway. Installation is complete. Time to boot into your system, remove the installation media, and click continue. The computer will restart and you will be running Debian. Alright, this is the grub screen. You notice at the bottom it said it would automatically pick this option in 5 seconds. Alright, and there you go. Now we are running Debian. Congratulations. This is the login screen of the command line interface. So you can log in as the user that you already created. User. And enter your password, and there you go. Now you are logged into Linux. Now I'm going to show you just a couple commands before we end this video. First of all, you want to log out, exit. Now we're back here to the login. I'm going to log in as root this time. Enter your root password. Remember, it should be a good long password. Hopefully you did that. And now I'm going to tell you how to shut down the computer or reboot it. Well, reboot's easy. All you do is type reboot and your computer will shut down and it will restart. Now if you want to shut it down, shut down -H now. -H means to halt the computer, which is what you want shutting down to do. And then you tell it to do it now, or you could specify do it in 5 minutes, but I've never used that option. Shut down -H now. And that will turn the computer off. And that'll be it for this tutorial. And pretty soon we will be installing the web server, but we're going to look at the file system and permissions next, and so you can catch the next video, and I'll see you then.